In today's video, 9 habits that beginner cyclists must avoid to improve their safety, their comfort, and their performance while out on the bike. This is tip number 1. So tip number 1 is to avoid leaving the house without a rear light on your bike. Riding on the road, even quiet country roads, is a potentially dangerous activity because of the speed and the size of cars going past, and you want to increase the chances of you being seen by as much as possible. A rear light is a small, inconspicuous, and inexpensive way to guarantee just that little bit more safety while out on the bike. There's a number of different lights that you can purchase. Some are designed simply for riding at night, but in my opinion, it's important to get a light that can handle all different weather conditions and also can be used during the day. The light that I use on my bike and I recommend to everybody is a Garmin Varia. No, I don't have any affiliation with Garmin. This is simply something that I recommend to people for their safety. The Garmin Varia is not only a very bright light that can be used during the day, but it's also a light that can handle all different weather conditions.
And it can also pair with a Garmin head unit if you have one to alert you to when vehicles are coming up behind you. One of my other favorite things about the Varia tail light is the battery life. It's got a battery life of almost 15 hours on daytime flash, which is absolutely huge and means you'll only need to charge it once every few weeks.
I'm seeing more and more riders use this light, and it's an excellent addition to your cycling safety, along with things like a helmet and a pair of gloves. Learn to ride with just one hand on the handlebars. Now, this point is obviously not a need to avoid, this is more of a need to learn. But by learning to ride with one hand on the bike, you can signal your way in traffic, you can eat and drink more easily, you can point out obstacles to riders that are behind you, and you'll end up being able to handle your bike better in more situations. I'm not suggesting take your hands off the handlebars at any time willy-nilly, but it is a skill that I recommend people do learn to enjoy cycling more. When riding along, you want to be able to reach down to grab your bottle out of your bike to have a drink without needing to come to a stop. You also want to be able to unzip a piece of clothing if it's too hot, or point out the direction that you're heading if there's cars or other cyclists around you. A tip on learning to ride with one hand is this: when you take your hand off the handlebars, don't place all the pressure of your upper body on your other hand. Learn to relax your core and relax your shoulder and your elbow that you're leaning on, and so that if you do hit any obstacles or you do need to apply the brakes while you've got that hand off the bike and you're signaling, that you can absorb that obstacle more easily or swerve around it if you need to while only holding the handlebar with one hand. While learning this, do start out on very quiet, smooth roads where there's no obstacles in front of you, but as you progress, you'll find you feel more confident on the bike and you can handle more scenarios as they come up. Once you've mastered the art of riding with one hand, you might also want to learn to ride with no hands. This will give you the ability to take off a piece of clothing and unwrap a wrapper if you are eating a piece of food. No, I don't recommend just going out there and riding down the road without any hands, but it is a skill that beginner cyclists should learn because it's a skill that is going to be required as you progress as a cyclist. Tip number 3 is this: always relax your shoulders, your wrists, and your elbows while cycling. This is important not only for your comfort while out on the bike, but also to be able to absorb things that you don't see coming up, like potholes or speed bumps. By relaxing your shoulders, your elbows, and your wrists on the bike, you'll have more control over the bike, and you'll find that if you do hit an unexpected obstacle, you're not getting thrown around. Learning to relax your shoulders, your elbows, and your wrists is not a process that happens overnight. It is something that you do need to work on for many years, but start small. While you're out cycling by yourself, just think about relaxing your shoulders, your upper body, and your elbows, and you'll find that you eventually pick up the habit naturally.
Something else that's important to note is that when you relax your shoulders, your elbows, and your wrists, you're not putting as much pressure through the front of the bike by having locked arms. When you have locked arms, you're pushing down hard on the front wheel, and that means that if you go over an unexpected bump, you're more likely to jar and get thrown off the bike. As you practice relaxing your shoulders, your elbows, and your wrists, you'll also find that your core strength naturally improves because you're relying on your core strength as well as your arms to hold you up.
If you watch any pro cyclists or pro cycling races, you'll see that all of them have very relaxed upper bodies. Not only do they have strong cores that they've developed after years of practicing this, but they also have an uncanny ability to absorb things that they don't see coming, which is particularly useful if you are riding in a group or you're riding in conditions that aren't optimal. Always corner with your outside foot down. Now this is a critical piece in the descending safety puzzle. When you're coming into corners, always put the opposing foot down to the direction of travel. The reason for this is this. When you're descending around a corner, you want to have as much weight on the outside of the bike as possible to press your tires into the floor. If you have your inside foot down, you're effectively pushing the inside of the bike down, and there's a much higher potential for the wheels to slip out from underneath you. By placing your outside foot down, you're placing additional pressure on the tires from the outside, pushing them into the road and increasing your grip. For some people this does come instinctively, but for others it's more difficult to learn. If it is a skill you're finding difficult to learn, start with very gradual curves. For example, if you're heading around a left-hand corner, place some additional weight onto your right foot and gently lift your bum off the seat to use your body weight to place the pressure on that foot.
When I say lift your bum off the seat, I only mean by a few millimeters.
While doing this, try to avoid lifting your inside heel as well. It's very tempting while pushing down on your outside foot to lift your inside heel, but what you want to do is push that inside heel down as well to form a strong frame in your body while you're turning around the corner to keep the bike stable and give you as much grip on the road as possible.
To further improve your bike handling while you're descending, make sure to put your hands in the drops. The drops are the lower part of the handlebar, and that's going to give you more stability, it's going to lower your center of gravity, and it will give you a better bike handling experience overall.
If you use the technique that I spoke about in the previous point, relaxing your shoulders, your elbows, and your wrists, you'll find that as you curve around a corner, you can absorb any bumps that are in the corner, and you'll find that you feel much more comfortable and much more safe while gliding around the corner. As always with cornering, remember not to brake sharply while in the middle of the corner. Do all your braking beforehand, place that outside foot down, and as you get to the end of the corner, you'll find your speed gradually picks up and you've got round smooth. While practicing cornering with your outside foot down, always make sure to do it on dry roads so you can get the technique down first, and then when it is raining, you'll find that you feel more confident. For me, this is my most important point of this video, and it's one I really want to impress on people. Always avoid cornering with your inside foot down, stabilize your bike using your outside foot, and you'll find that you end up more safe as a cyclist. My next tip is this: avoid surging on hills. Particularly if you're riding in a bunch or you're riding with friends, avoid going full gas when you're going up any small climb. Not only does this mean it's going to spike your heart rate and you'll need to recover more afterwards, but also the people around you don't know you're going to surge, so you'll find that you're continually yo-yoing off the front of your group of friends. Instead of surging on hills, maintain the same level of power that you were doing on the flat and let your bike naturally slow down while continuing to push the same power. This is a very predictable way of riding, and it's also going to mean that instead of spiking your heart rate way up and needing to recover once you get to the top of the hill, you'll find that you can maintain the same pace over the top of the hill and your average speed actually improves. By smoothing your power over the entire duration of the ride, not only will you find that you stay in the bunch and with the group of people you're riding with more easily and more enjoyably, but you'll find that you get a better workout because you're riding at the same intensity at the start of the ride and as at the end of the ride. If you do too many surges too early on while you're feeling fresh, your body burns through all of its energy stores more rapidly and you'll come home feeling a little bit more broken. This leads me to my next point. Fueling. Now, fueling this whole expedition is critical. When you're out on the bike, your body is burning through fuel like a car does with petrol or like a fire does with logs of wood. Have a decent breakfast before you go out and ride, but always remember that because of the intensity of the cycling that you're doing, you're burning through fuel at a rate that your body can't sustain in the same way it would do if you're sitting at home sedentary. I always try to remember to eat every 30 minutes, whether it's a bar or a gel or any other kind of food. By eating a small amount every 30 minutes, you're fueling your body and your body will perform all the way through your ride. There are a million videos out there on how to fuel for cycling. I'll put one of mine up in the top corner here, but fueling is an important part of the cycling puzzle. Everyone will tell you this, and it's important to learn from the start. If there's one thing I could change about my cycling when I first started riding, it's that I wish I knew how to eat while out on the bike. A quick tip on fueling: make it easier for yourself by putting sports drink inside your water bottle and drink that sports drink consistently throughout a ride. This is an easy way to take on calories without feeling like you need to unwrap a wrapper and eat additional food on the bike or in a bunch. By putting sports drink in your bottles, you'll fuel consistently, you'll feel better, and you'll get to the end of your ride feeling much fresher than you would do otherwise. Learning some basic bike maintenance when you first start out is going to be critical to helping you into the future on your cycling journey. Buy a bike pump and keep your tires pumped up at the correct pressure, and buy some chain lube and keep your drivetrain cleaner and lubricated. I use the Silka tire pressure calculator to work out the appropriate tire pressure for me, but for you, depending on your weight, the tires that you're running, the type of terrain you're riding on, and the performance you want out of your bike, there'll be a different measurement. Jump on the Silka website, which I put a link to down in the description, and work out the correct tire pressure for you. Along with this, if you wash your drivetrain or wipe it down with baby wipes and apply lubricant every 2 to 3 rides, not only will the chain last longer, but the cassette and the chain rings will also last longer, which will save you a bunch of money going forwards. Invest in a bike fit. If you've bought your bike from a bike shop, they should give you a basic bike fit before you walk out the door. Checking things like your saddle height and your handlebar height is critical for getting comfortable on the bike and being able to handle it in a more skilled way. Although bike shop fits are great to get you out riding, I would recommend having a professional bike fit to check some of the nuances like your leg length in comparison to your torso length, your reach, your flexibility, and what position might make you most comfortable on the bike. A bike fit will help with things that I've mentioned earlier in this video, like how to relax your shoulders and your elbows, and most importantly, you'll find if you're fitted correctly, you end up more comfortable on the bike overall. Comfort and safety are the first 2 things that I would prioritize while you're learning to cycle before you look at things like your power output and your performance on the bike, but those things will come naturally with a professional bike fit.
We're lucky in the fact that cycling is such a popular sport worldwide that there's bike fitters in every city around the world. I recommend getting in touch with your local bike shop, ask them for their bike fitter recommendations, and go from there.
Alrighty, and this brings me up to my final point, and this is this. Always put safety above everything else. Always wear a helmet while out on the bike, wear sunscreen if it is sunny outside, use the rear light as suggested earlier, dress appropriately for the conditions, and anticipate what's coming up on the road. By utilizing all of the skills that I've mentioned in this video, your safety is generally going to be heightened. If you anticipate what's coming up, you can ride in a bunch better. If you wear appropriate safety gear, you have less chance of being hurt if you crash. If you eat correctly, you'll always be cognizant because your brain requires calories to operate. By learning to ride with one hand and being able to signal correctly, you'll find that you can handle your bike better and alert drivers and cyclists behind you as to what you're going to do. While I did title this video about things that beginner cyclists must avoid, these are actually things that I think beginner cyclists must learn just as equally. This list has definitely not been the definitive list of things that beginner cyclists must avoid, but it is a starting point, and I hope you guys have got something out of it. I'll see you guys all in another episode of Tristan Take Video very soon. Thanks for watching. Adeu.